We're delighted to introduce today 3 City Club Youth Forum members who represent the future conscience of the city. They're here to present Project TRANSCEND, a unique program which involves students in defining how we can work collaboratively in understanding and thwarting discrimination and advancing diversity. Our speakers will begin with Joel Sankey. Joel is a junior at Oregon Episcopal School. He's a charter member of Project TRANSCEND. He's been a student counselor for TRANSCEND for 4 years and was a workshop leader for the Unlearning Racism workshops conducted by Project TRANSCEND at the Anne Frank exhibit in November of 1992. Our other speakers. One more page. Secondly, Tyfani Osborne is a senior at Jefferson High School. Tyfani is a member also of the Jefferson Dancers, though I understand she'll be in the audience next week, and has participated in TRANSCEND training workshops, the Emerging Leaders Conference sponsored by City Club, and City Club's Cultural Diversity workshops. Our third speaker is Russell Jackson, a junior at Benson High School. Russell participated in the first year of the TRANSCEND project training 4 years ago when he was in the 8th grade at Fernwood Middle School. He's been a student counselor every year since then. He participated in Camp Odyssey last year and the NAACP's Youth Leadership Program. Please join us in welcoming our speakers today. Joel?
Thank you. I'd like to start out with you doing an experiment with me. I would like all of you to close your eyes for a minute and think back to when you were 13 or 14 or even 16 years old. And I'd like you to think about what your family was like, and what your schools were like, and what your teachers were like. I'd like you to think about what your neighborhood was like, and also what your community was like. And then I'd like you to think about whether in your community you had a program like the City Club. And if you did, I would like you to think about how you would feel as the first speaker at a City Club luncheon. And if you think you'd be nervous, you know how I feel. Project TRANSCEND began 4 years ago when I was in the 8th grade. It was developed by Youth Today Incorporated. The mission of Youth Today Incorporated and Project TRANSCEND is to empower culturally diverse youth in 4 ways. These are 1, developing leadership, 2, learning advocacy skills, 3, increasing community involvement, and 4, practicing basic problem solving. In the first year, approximately 150 middle school students from Selwood, Fernwood, and Oregon Episcopal School cooperated in 3 different projects. These projects focused on combating discrimination of age, race, class, and gender. My group participated in a 3-day anti-discrimination training course presented by the Anti-Defamation League. 2 trainers from the New York City office taught students the skills needed to be trainers themselves. The theme of this course was breaking down stereotypes by seeing likenesses rather than differences between people and cultures. The activity we didn't get around to today, which we would have liked to have done, was one of the original exercises from that training. After the workshops, students continued to practice what they had learned. Later in the year, we taught what we had learned to our peers. The next group of students worked with the Northwest Film and Video Center to make videos concentrating on the diversity of their school's community. 2 of the schools chose to do videos portraying the life at their school. The third chose to do videotaped interviews with owners of ethnic restaurants within the school's neighborhood. The final 50 students worked in a leadership group which planned and put on the Youth Leadership Conference. They were responsible for finding speakers and entertainment that would model the multicultural theme of TRANSCEND. This Saturday conference took place in March at the end of the program, and was a time for each group to show what they had been working on for the past few months. The Student Anti-Defamation League trainers led anti-discrimination workshops, and the film group showed their videos. Now I'd like to explain to you what has happened to Project TRANSCEND in the 4 years since its beginning. Each year, approximately 100 to 150 new middle school students from both public and independent schools are involved in Transcend. This year, there are 5 middle schools. They are Beaumont, Ockley Green, Fernwood, Oregon Episcopal School, and Catlin Gable. Beaumont, Ockley Green, and Fernwood are public schools in the Portland public school system. Oregon Episcopal and Catlin Gable are independent schools. All 150 students gathered at Portland State University and took part in anti-discrimination training. The anti-discrimination training workshops are now led by local adult and student instructors who were involved in the initial Anti-Defamation League training. The 3 adult instructors are Samuel Wade from Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, Bonnie Sankey from Oregon Episcopal School, and Alice Simpson from Youth Today Incorporated. The student trainers are from Benson and Jefferson High School. Both Tyfani and Russell are student instructors. After the workshops, the students return to their schools and train their peers. As a result, more than 1,000 students in the Portland area will receive anti-discrimination training this year. Following the anti-discrimination training, the 150 students each chose from one of 3 activities. The first group will work together to produce a video concerning discrimination. The next group will research and write oral histories of people from different backgrounds in their community. The third group plans a community celebration night. Between 500 and 1,000 students, families, staff, and interested members of the general public are expected to come. It is a chance for participants in Project Transcend to display their work, which celebrates the diversity of the program and of their entire community. A component of Project Transcend is the opportunity for students to participate in the city school program. This is a chance for students to spend a day at work with a community mentor from a career of interest to that student. Examples of these work experiences are county and city government, law enforcement, business, arts and entertainment, and human services. Project Transcend students are also eligible to attend the National Middle School Conference and the City Club Youth Forum. I have been a member of the City Club Youth Forum since its beginning 3 years ago. What I've liked about coming to City Club is that it gives me a chance to involve myself in my community. Youth Today and the City Club are similar in many ways. The City Club's mission is to inform members of the community of public matters and of their obligation of citizenship. What the City Club does for citizens of Portland is the same thing which Project Transcend and Youth Today are doing for kids in the Portland area. What I hope is that once you hear what we have to say, you will do 2 things. First, think about what importance understanding diversity has for the City Club of Portland and for each citizen of Portland. Secondly, I suggest that the members of the City Club become involved in any one of the offshoots of Youth Today Incorporated, in the same way that we are trying to involve ourselves here. Project Transcend provides the opportunity for building relationships between students who have a sense of what the future will be like. Students are preparing to work together in a multicultural environment. Project Transcend has grown and changed tremendously in the last 4 years and has been widely accepted. I believe that this success shows the incredible open-mindedness of the students and the devotion of the staff, both of whom want to make a difference. Thank you.
Now that you know a little bit about what Project Transcend is, I'm going to tell you why it's important, why I participate, why the activities are effective, and why we work with middle school students, and why the training will help the participants become productive members of our society. I became involved in Project Transcend as a sophomore in high school because I had already been involved with such programs as Self-Enhancement and Camp Odyssey, and I had become aware of what a large problem discrimination is, and I wanted to help give something back to my community. By helping to facilitate some of the exercises for the past 3 years in what I see as a vitally important program, I feel that it makes a difference in the behavior of students who participate. The exercises and activities that Project Transcend chooses to use makes the students aware of their feelings and behaviors, and these activities further help to broaden understanding of the differences among the students. And it puts them in an atmosphere where productive conversations can take place on topics such as racism and classism. And then the manner is so important to promote acceptance and understanding. I feel that it's important to work with middle school students because these students are just beginning to form their beliefs and value systems, which will become a part of their lives. Middle school age students are old enough to understand and apply what they've learned in their own lives and to positively influence those around them. They are also young enough to have time to practice newly acquired skills and apply them before accepting the full responsibilities of adulthood. Today's young people, our future, are largely unprepared for the cultural changes that await them in coming years. For instance, the Center for Immigration Studies reports that by the year 2000, 60% of the workforce will be composed of women and people of color. And between the years of 1985 and the year 2000, white males will comprise only 15% of the net additions to the labor force. All of these facts mean that though in school many students will have classmates who are much like them, when they become working citizens, many of their employees, counterparts, and even bosses will not be like them, and these youth need to learn the proper skills to deal with that reality. Just as a judge needs to have working knowledge of the law, or a surgeon must know everything about the operation he is about to perform, all people living and interacting in their society need to have basic social skills in order to be a productive member of that society. Project Transcend teaches the participants these skills. Whereas corporations and governments invest millions of dollars in affirmative action and cultural diversity programs, schools and school-age youth receive comparatively little investment. So as you can see, Project Transcend is important morally, socially, and as well economically. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have participated in Project Transcend for the past 3 years. It is my pleasure to be here with you to talk about Project Transcend. Transcend is an important asset to the community because it teaches young adolescents about diversity at a time in their lives where they are beginning to learn about values that will develop for the rest of their lives. These students will have time to extend their new acquired skills and use them before adulthood. At this young age, they will be able to understand diversity and its importance to carry them throughout their lives. I can recall the first time I attended Transcend, which was in the 8th grade a few years ago. It was hard for me to interact with other kids I didn't know. However, by the end of the conference, I was able to interact with other students from different schools and different backgrounds. I learned from Project Transcend to interact with people you don't know about and to learn from them. Transcend brings junior high schools from public and private schools as well as many multiple backgrounds. These students interact and learn more about each other's culture. This becomes a very positive thing in our community. Most importantly, it shows if you link different groups together, it is possible for them to have one positive group and have them succeed. Naturally, this is what Project Transcend has done and continues to do. Without Transcend, I wouldn't have met Joel here. He goes to OAS, and I attended Fernwood at the time. I already had my perceptions of private schools before I met Joel, most of which were rich, stuck-up kids that didn't know anything about the city or any other backgrounds. However, I learned about OAS from Joel, and my perceptions weren't true. I visited OAS and met quite a few new people. They treated me nicely and wanted to learn more about me. This just shows that you have to seek for yourself what really goes on and not believe what you hear. Transcend's main purpose is to teach diverse young people to understand and work with other backgrounds different from themselves. The students participate in effective, proven exercises that promote appreciation of culture and ethnic difference and encourage acceptance. Some of these exercises are SCAR and Famous People. SCAR which stands for sexism, classism, ageism, and racism. This exercise has a picture of a person's face, and each time a student finds sexism, classism, ageism, or racism, a scar is added to the person's face. This shows after some of these things happen in a person's life, it can cause scars. Famous People is an exercise that deals with famous people from each racial background. such as Asian Americans, African Americans, Caucasians, Native Americans, and Hispanics. You have to list famous people according to their racial background. This year, we changed some of the rules for African Americans. You can't list any professional athletes or entertainers. This stipulation caused a lot of people to think harder about African Americans and how they contributed to American society, and also to really show how much they know about African Americans. Students also develop a greater awareness of the causes and effects of discrimination, also to help students acquire and utilize skills necessary to expand their own cultural awareness. Not only does Project Transcend benefit junior high school students, but the community and the business world. With Transcend, racially motivated crimes will decrease, corporations can spend less money in training their employees, and the private sector will have opportunities to work with young people. The United States is becoming more and more diverse. Today's young people are tomorrow's leaders, and a great percentage of these young people are unprepared for the cultural changes that are awaiting them. They need to develop skills more to make them a successful multicultural society to succeed. That's why I personally got involved in Project Transcend, because I don't want to be one of these young people who aren't ready for the cultural change. I want to be ready for the cultural changes and be part of the successful multicultural society. Since I've gotten in Transcend, I have also gotten more involved in my community. I have worked for Action for Children, a children's advocacy group, the Urban League's youth group. This past summer, we went to Washington, D.C. for a national conference. We had the opportunity to see and hear Bill Clinton speak. And also I went to Camp Odyssey, a camp that teaches how to end racism and sexism, and also how to understand diversity. Project Transcend continues to be successful in our community. Transcend for the past 3 years have worked tremendously with students to broaden our minds. I personally feel that with Project Transcend in the Portland metropolitan area, we will not be known as the City of Roses, but as the City of Bouquets, meaning diversity. Thank you.
Well, to hear more from good questioners and from our panel, I'd like to invite Maisha Rayford and Courtney Volker. Both are City Club Youth Forum members. Maisha is from Wilson High School and Courtney from OES, to continue in the questioning.
My name is Courtney Volker from Youth Forum, and I have 2 questions for all 3 of you. First, why should projects like this take the time and money away from science and math, since people say the education of the children is the future of our world?
I think that it's very important to have projects like this because we're not able to compete with the rest of the world because we cannot interact with them. Our society is made up at the present time mostly of people of European descent. If we can have programs like this, we can learn to interact with other people and value their cultures and their diversity from us, therefore helping us to get along with the rest of the world.
I think that you can learn all the math and science skills that are necessary, but eventually, as you move on in life and as our society changes and we become more multicultural, you're going to have to interact with other people and people who are different from you. And so I think it's necessary because you can have those math and science skills, but eventually you are going to have to deal with other people.
With math skills and science skills, you're going to have to interact with other people different from yourselves. Most math and science come from different areas of the world besides the United States, and you're going to have to deal with them if you're in that field to succeed. You have to communicate with them, and you want to be able to communicate with them in a right way.
Secondly, isn't it a bit unrealistic to expect such a program to really change the attitudes of the youth in our society?
I don't think so, because if you look at the people who are involved in Project Transcend this year, and you look at us, and you look at our peers who are also involved with it, and I think it made quite a big difference for all of us. And so I think it can do the same for other people.
I feel that from what I've seen, the people that have gone through Project Transcend, some of which have gone to Jefferson after they've experienced Project Transcend, they're still trying to get back and help. So obviously it's changed them in some way because they are asking to be a part of that again And personally, I did not participate as a student through Project Transcend, but I've taken time off from school. Like today, I don't get credit, I don't get any kind of recognition, but I feel that it's important, and I take that time out because I do see the change in the students that participate, and I feel that it's very important.
I feel that you have to start somewhere because in the past we've had a lot of racial tensions. If we start now, we will be able to communicate with each other. We have to start sometime soon for this world to change.
I agree with all of you. Thank you.
My name is Maisha Rayford, and my question is, what makes all three of you guys so dedicated, just as an individual, to this program and to making the future a better one? And how do you think that it will better you, or how do you think that you will benefit from it later on in life?
I will benefit from this later on in life because I'll be able to talk with other people from different backgrounds, and it benefits me because I can get up in front and talk in front of people and won't be so nervous. Also, I can acquire leadership skills. I was freshman class president, and I don't think I would have been able to done that if I wouldn't went through Project Transcend, which taught me a lot of leadership skills that I have now.
I think that the reason I'm dedicated to Project Transcend is that I enjoy it, and I think that's probably the only reason. And I really like what I'm getting to do. Like, I'm enjoying today. And I've liked what I've done in the past. I've liked the training that I've done, and I really enjoyed the training that I went through my 8th grade year. And so I would say that that's definitely, I really enjoy it, and that's why I'm dedicated. And
I think that I'm dedicated because from being a person who helps facilitate the exercises, I've seen so much change in the students that it gives me hope for the future. And sometimes I don't always have that hope. And when I see these kids that are understanding how not to be racist and how not to be sexist, it gives me hope, and it lets me know that we do have a chance for our future to become better than what we are now.
Thank you.
Turn to Ann Jarvis, or do you have another question?
Many adults worry that youth today live with a threat of violence in their daily lives that was virtually non-existent a generation earlier. Would you comment on whether you believe this perception is accurate? If you do, could you suggest ways that adults and parents in our community can help to improve this trend?
I feel that the parents and the teachers and the counselors have to get more involved with their youngsters. We wouldn't have a lot of these problems if the parents and the teachers if they were more involved. We wouldn't have a lot of these problems. A lot of these teenage gangs and stuff feel that they have love within their gangs. That's why they join gangs, because no one else cares for them. And if we start caring for the youth, things might be able to change around.
I agree with what Russell said, because there's an old African saying that says it takes an entire village to raise a child, and I truly believe that. It's not just the parents, and the teachers can't do it by themselves, but it needs to be the whole community that helps out the child. And if all these people can get involved, because whether we like it or not, the children are the future. And since there's been a lot of violence, if we can all get involved and help teach the kids that this is wrong, then things will get better.
I would also agree that the family and the teachers are important, and I think that also the schooling and more structure to the schooling is important. Having things to do and places you're going to, things that you can be dedicated to, like Project Transcend, that benefit your education, and having things to do, I think, is important.
Member, I have a question which I'd like each of you to answer. Drawing on the leadership skills that you've gained through Project Transcend, if you were placed into a leadership position in the city of Portland this afternoon, what would be the one major change that you would make?
I would have Project Transcend as a training more statewide than the local. If I was, I guess, governor, it would be more statewide. It wouldn't just be on a local basis, because we all need to understand each other's diversity, and it's important because we all are different, and we understand each other, then we all can all get along, and we all will have better understanding from each other, and we all can communicate a lot better.
Youth today. How big do you expect Project Transcend to get?
I think that, I guess this can answer both questions. I think it would be important and it would be nice for Project Transcend to grow, but you have to, I think there's a time comes when you become too big, and keeping the minimum number of people from each school is important. But I think that also you could start other programs like Project Transcend, and that would go statewide, but not necessarily one large program.
I think that if I was placed in a position like this for one day, that I would make programs like Project Transcend necessary and mandatory, just like math and science, because these are the skills that we're going to have to need to compete with the rest of the world. And also, I think that, to answer your question, young man, that I'd have programs like this everywhere. And I expect for it to get large, maybe not just Project Transcend, but programs like it, because it's very important. And we're not going to be able to get along with the rest of our world if we don't have such programs, because obviously parents and teachers aren't quite making it at this time. And so we need help elsewhere.
Next question? Or did you want to add to it? Sorry, go ahead, Russell.
With Project Transcend, I think we'll have a domino effect because we have 150 kids each year. Each of those kids can go back and teach someone else what they've learned, and eventually it will get around and everybody will have learned it. And also you could put other programs such as this in different states, and it will continue to have the same domino effect as well.
Now, next question.
Jay Gerard, City Club Arts and Culture Committee. Well, you're really fantastic. This room is filled with exceptional students. That's obvious. I have an 8-year-old son, and he's pretty much at a loss for words when trying to describe people. He recently was pointing someone out, and he said, you know, the man in the blue hat, that sort of brownish man. He doesn't even have a vocabulary of discrimination. I wonder, because you're young, if you can remember when you first kind of felt the need to understand others because you recognized that they were somehow different.
Well, for me, that question is very hard because I'm multi-ethnic, whatever you want to say. My mother is Caucasian, and my father is African American. Both of them have Native American in them. So all my life, I have had a need to learn about other people so that I could subsequently learn about myself. Because I come from all these different places, that it's always been there for me because I've grown up with both my parents. So it's kind of hard for me to answer your question because I come from so many different places.
When I was young, I always had opportunities to see different people. I knew what color they were. I knew this one was white, this one was black. It was never really a conflict for me, but at your child's age, he doesn't really know about discrimination, as you said. But what you might want to do is point out, well, this person is African American, this person is Asian, and this person's Caucasian, and maybe that would help him better to understand each person.
I think that the idea of the anti-discrimination training, which is done in Project Transcend, one of the things that I talked about, which is taught, is seeing the likenesses rather than differences between people and cultures. And I think that's an important idea because you look at people and you can say, yeah, he's African American and he's Caucasian, but if you see what ties them together, I think that's important. And to try to look at that would be an important thing.
And I'd just like to say I think it's wonderful that your son feels this way, and I hope that you continue to help him feel this way, that he doesn't have to say, that black man over there, because in saying that, that places the value on the fact that that person is black, not that he's a human being. And I think that's very good that you're helping your son be like that, because I know a lot of kids that are 2 and 3 years old that are like, look, that white girl over there, and I don't think that's right. And I'd like to commend you on your parenthood.
Well, I return the compliment. As I said, this room is full of extraordinary students. Continued good luck.
I'm in Project Transcend, and
I try to go back to my school and talk to people and teach them what I learn and what I believe, which is that everybody is created equal. And what happens usually is people laugh and they don't want to hear what I have to say and they won't listen. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't really want to change things, that like being separated. I mean, how would you fix that? How would you react to somebody when they started saying stuff to you and making fun of you and saying that you were just a dreamer and that was never going to happen?
I don't think you should feel like you can change the world. There's always going to be people out there that are not going to want equal things or don't want this person to get ahead of them. So you shouldn't just like bang your head against the wall in a sense. You should just go on to the next person and try to change them. If they don't want to change, continue on. You have to keep trying. Everybody's not going to want to change things, but there's always going to be someone out there that is wanting to help change things, and so that's what you should do.
I think that being confident in what you believe and what you're telling them is important, and I think that showing that confidence is important, because whether they can show you or tell you outright that they think what you're doing is important, it at least is affecting some of them without you knowing it. And so I think that being confident and being strong about what you believe in and knowing that you believe in it.
I agree with what they said, and I think that even if you don't know it, they might laugh at you, but deep down inside they're going to think about what you said. And it might not change them, because you can't change someone unless they want to change. But if you can just plant that seed in their brain, they can start thinking about it, and maybe one day they'll want to change. So what I think you're doing is a real good thing. Even though people may laugh at you, you still have to go on and keep trying.
I'm Jim Zarin, a member of the club, and I also happen to be chair of the research board of the club. And I want to ask you each for some more insight. You're providing a lot of insight and wisdom to a lot of us today generally, but I want to ask about something real specific. The club has just decided to commence 2 additional studies. We do long-term studies at City Club, and they last about a year. And among the new ones we're doing are 2 of them relating to kids in schools. One of them is how the schools are run, who makes decisions, and the other is the extent to which some of our students in schools just aren't performing satisfactorily in a way that when they leave school they're going to be able to be successful as people out in the society. So we have those 2 new studies going on, and one of the things we want our study committees to do, they're going to start meeting in January, is to make sure that they talk to people in schools, teachers, administrators, but also students. And it's kind of a simple question, but do you have any notions about how our study committees, these will be adult members of the City Club who are working and get together for evening meetings, et cetera, or weekend meetings or daytime meetings, how might they talk to students like you or students generally in the Portland schools to get your ideas about how the schools are run and what we do about kids who just aren't learning the way they should? So any ideas you have would be welcome.
You might could talk to the principal at some schools and have him or she recommend students that can be a part of your committee to help you understand what really goes on in the schools.
I think that also talking just to maybe random students who aren't recommended by their principals and who the principals haven't necessarily thought about as being, oh, well, they'll give a good answer or whatever. And another thing, it's important to look at both independent or both private and public schools, because I think both work and both do a good job of educating students. And so seeing some kind of seeing the likenesses between them.
I think the key to your study will be the students, because we're the ones that are getting affected the most. And a lot of times when people do studies like that, they don't think about the kids. They talk to the teachers and the counselors and the principals, but all the stuff that's happening is affecting the children. And so I think that it's very necessary, like Joel said, to sometimes speak to the kids that aren't recommended by the principal, because they won't give a good answer or they won't tell you what you want to hear. But every kid has an opinion about school. It might be about the cafeteria food or how their science program is run, but it's very important to them, and they see what's going on from the inside. And the teachers and the teachers and the counselors and the principals are only going to tell you what you want to hear.
Tim Kremer, City Club member. In your diversity discussions and training, do you also cover sexual orientation and the differences there?
I didn't quite understand your question, but could you repeat that again, please?
In the area of diversification or diversity training, do you cover the subject of sexual orientation and the differences, lesbian, gay?
We did a little. It gets more increased each year. When I went the first time, I don't think we went over that topic. I don't think it was as big as it is now. But I do think that it is important not to discriminate against because of a person's sexual orientation. That's their business. They can do whatever they want at their home. It's not like they're bringing it. It's not like they're bringing it out to the job or whatever. If they do it at home, it's their business. You should know what goes on in their personal life.
Yes, as Russell said, it has, as the topic has become more aware to the public, I guess, or it's always been aware to the public, but as it's become a bigger topic in recent years, it's become more important to the anti-discrimination training. And also we try to cover every kind of discrimination, which of course, I mean, thousands of kinds of discrimination. But I think, yeah, Project TRANSCEND does a pretty good job covering.
I'm a City Club member. I have a two-part question here. Have you had parents of TRANSCEND members who differed with the training that their children received? And are there any facilities provided to bring these parents along with the enlightenment of their children? That's for all three of you.
Just because of the society that we live in, everyone has prejudice within them because of the way we've been brought up. And I know when I came back from Camp Odyssey and everyone was equal and everyone was great and I loved the world, and then I got home. And I had a discussion with my father and two of my uncles, and I ended up crying because they did not happen to agree with my view. And so it's important I think the kids do talk to their families about it, and you're not going to change your parents in one day maybe because they have their beliefs and they had them for a long time. But I don't know of any organizations that per se help the parents along, but I think the children, who, if they have beliefs strong enough and they feel that this is the right thing, will help their help their parents themselves.
I think that one of the best ways that this happens, that the parents learn about what's going on, is the students taking what they've learned back to their houses, as Tyfani says, and having discussions. And also the parents are invited to come to the celebration at the end of the year. And I think parents have also come to the anti-discrimination training to help out or whatever and learn at the same time.
Dave Olson, member. When Joel asked us to visualize when we were in high school, I remembered lighting a firecracker in the study hall and having to apologize to the whole study hall. I was a lot more nervous than Joel. But on that subject, visualizing my high school in Wichita in 1941, there was no problem with guns. And I'd like to know what you people today think about what we can do to stop this business of guns in schools.
At the national level, you can get rid of the lobbyists. And you can, with the Brady bill, I think with the 10-day waiting period, I believe, it will slow down it will slow down as far as guns coming into America and into the hands of teenagers, which I think is great.
Well, I think that's a very complex question because I know if I really wanted a gun, I could go get one right now. And it might not be legal, but it's possible. And it's really hard. I think that the answer to almost every problem in our society is education, and we just don't focus on education enough. We wait till the problem gets out of hand, and then we would say, well, what do we do? There's nothing we can do. But I think that the problem is that we don't have a good enough foundation in our education system, because if we did, then we wouldn't have a lot of these problems that we do have today. And so I think that the most important thing for us to do is focus on education, starting at kindergarten and first grade.
Don Barney, City Club member. Let me ask the three of you to visualize over the past several years of your interactions with other kids in your schools and middle schools and high school, and think of the biggest challenge you faced in dealing with other people, if you're willing to share that with us, and how the skills you've been learning in Project Transcend help you to resolve that particular problem.
Well, we'll talk. Because of my ethnic background, my biggest problem is, in fact, my ethnic background. Because, to put it in words that everyone can understand, I was too white for black folks and too black for white folks. So I think that programs like Project Transcend help me be okay with myself. And in being okay with myself, it helps my self-esteem. And comments that kids say don't bother me as much as they used to. And, you know, the fact that I might not be accepted by this group of black kids because my mother's white doesn't bother me, because if they really wanted to be my friend, then that wouldn't matter to them. And so that was my biggest problem, and being in programs like Project Transcend and Camp Odyssey and Self-Enhancement helped me be okay with myself. And then within changing myself, I can help change others if they want to be changed.
The school that I go the school that I go to is not necessarily very culturally diverse, and I think oftentimes there are a lot of jokes and a lot of comments which are made about other races, or and not necessarily races too, but also in the sense of gender and class. And I think this has given me and other people a lot more confidence in saying something to people when they make comments that are discriminatory, because it's kind of like some people, it's like you may feel like, oh, well, we're sort of alone. We're all the same here at this school. And what we can say whatever we want, because it's not necessarily going to be taken out to the outside world. And it's not going to affect the people that the comments are made about. And so I think in my case, and also I can probably speak for the other people who went through Project Transcend, it's given them the confidence to talk to people and say that, you know, maybe this isn't necessarily the right thing to say or the right thing to be thinking.
With Project Transcend, it has helped me to go up and talk to people who have made bad comments about other people or their race or their sexual preference, whatever. In particular, there was one just a few weeks ago. I had a substitute teacher, and she said that they was having a problem with minority students hanging out in the halls and whatever have you. And so she come up to me, and she was talking, well, you know, the minority students, they don't want to learn and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And so I was kind of shocked at first, because I wouldn't expect that from a substitute teacher, at least coming up to me, just out of the blue. I thought she would have kept it to herself, but she didn't. So I asked her why she felt this way, and she goes, well, most blacks don't want to learn anyway. As you can, she said she substituted at Grant many times. I was like, well, that's like Grant. You can't judge. How do you know what goes on at Benson or what goes on at Jeff or what goes on at Roosevelt or other schools? You can't judge other people just by what you see for the first time. You have to get to know the people, the person or the group. You don't just stereotype them because what you see at that particular school. That is like me saying, I see this Alice Simpson here, and I say, well, all white people are stupid or something like that. I mean, that's wrong to do that. I mean, I'm just judging what I see of a person. I'm not saying that you're stupid, Alice. But, I mean, that's how she really said it. And so you don't judge people just by you see. You have to be around the people or the group of people for a time to see how they live and what they do. So that's it.
Peter Stevens, member of the City Club. I'd like to hear you give some advice to one group of people whom you've left out. I think I've heard you leave out anyway of your remarks this afternoon, and that's people like myself who run the schools in this city. What would you tell us to do?
Jeez. I guess I would tell you guys that most of the people in the higher level in the school district don't really get down to the grassroots level of the students. They just go by what the school board or whatever have you, the teachers are saying. You need to get down on how the students feel. What do they like about school? What they don't like about school, and get their suggestions. And you could probably better the school district a lot better because they know what's really going on. The teachers aren't will say this problem has this. They're there so they can keep their job. They're not going to tell you something that you don't want them to hear. So you have to get down on the grassroots level and talk to the students.
I think that talking to the students is the most important, and I also think that you can talk to the students and then you can also listen to the students. And I think you have to make sure that you make a point of not only saying, well, I want to hear your views on this, but actually listening to their views and maybe considering them as views which could be correct or could have some sense to them. But I think that also takes place at my school fairly often, and so I appreciate that.
I think that a lot of the people that are higher up in the school system, I know they're very busy. But just like I'm supposed to be in school right now, I chose to take the time out because I feel that this is important to me. I think that people that are higher up in the school system need to take that time out to talk to the students because that's what you're here for. You're here to teach the students. How are you going to effectively teach the students if you don't know what their problems are? And so by talking to them, I know that in my senior English and economics classes, we talk about problems every day. We've talked about almost every issue that I've talked about today. Guns and, education, what's wrong with it, and discrimination. And sometimes I think that the majority of us feel that we're just talking to let each other know what we think, but there's nothing really we can do about it. So maybe if the people that are higher up came down and talked to us, it would help change a lot because we do have views, and we're not just saying we want better cafeteria food. We're saying we want our schools to be better, and I think this is how we can do it because we're the ones that are experiencing what's going on, and I don't think that we've been paid too much attention to lately.
Any last questions from the audience? We have a few more minutes. Barring that, I think it would give us plenty of time for a long ovation. I think this is a wonderful group of students, both the questioners, and I want to remind myself, Courtney Volker and Maisha Rayford, who did an excellent job, and certainly our panelists, Joel Sankey, Tyfani Osborne, and Russell Jackson. I think none of us could have imagined doing this kind of presentation at this age, so you're right. It's hard to we really congratulate you, and we hope that we will keep you as City Club members because you're just the kind of bright, civic-minded people that we'd like to have as members of the club. So will you join me in thanking and congratulating our speakers today?